regurgitate water for him if he was really in a dire state that needed water. So, you know, everything else about the camel was used by the deep Bedouin Arab. And as this, you know, washed over the city areas, which were basically Hellenized, Egyptian Hellenized areas, Copts, for instance, comes from the old word for Egyptian, Copt, Egypt. People say gypsies come from the old word for Egypt. I don't think that that's where they really came from, but that's the term that was applied in Europe to me for some reason, and so on. Well, in any case, the book of Genesis takes you down to Joseph and Ephraim, which we did last time. Then the Moses stories, and that's about 1700 BC. Then the Moses stories in Exodus and the rest of the books of Moses take you down to about 14 or 1300 BC. We don't know when the Exodus was. Nobody can agree on that. Sometime during these cataclysms. But, you know, 300 years after Joseph. I should mention one quick thing, since we're trying to do it. We don't need this, but I hate to leave you ignorant of anything. Hyksos was a group of Egyptian pharaohs in the 1600 BC period. We have that, I think, pretty well dated. I'm not sure if it's totally right, but that seems to be the date. And they're called shepherd foreign kings. They came in, and they're from the Semitic background. And probably the stories we get of Joseph reflect that period. Joseph going down into Egypt, being in the ruling class, and so on. Moses being in the ruling class. There's all kinds of theories about the Exodus taking place behind the pharaohship of this supposedly blasphemous or pharaoh who adopted one god, supposedly the Aton, changed his capital to Amarna. You see the television stuff. They have things about Akhenaten all the time. King Tut was his son. Under King Tut, the old Egyptian god system came back. But the Moses story seems to take place in that period, in those dislocations in Egypt, from 1600 to 1300 BC. No one can put it exactly. I think, you know, I have no idea. So they're Israelites to themselves. They go out in the wilderness. They coalesce as a people. Scholars say many people didn't leave Palestine, that there's evidence of Israelites staying in the northern areas from archaeological digs, that there's no interruption, no conquest evidence and things like that. I don't know. This is all very murky here. But in any event, in the Bible, Joshua is Moses' servant. And that would be the conquest period. So the conquest period would be about 1200 to 1100 BC. So at that time, they come into a collision course with Philistines, who are conquering the area at the same time. Philistines are conquering the coast, Israelites and others are conquering the highlands. So everything is a big mess in the conquest period. We have so-called judges, and I can't go into all that in the Bible, but Judges purports to tell you that period. It's organized into 12 judges, so it's clearly one judge for each tribe. So it's a, you know, abstract book. It's not straight history by any means. It's just stories about different heroes of different tribes, supposedly. And the Joshua material is very complex, the book of Joshua. Very many text lines there. Some text lines say Joshua conquered all of the land, and then if you read carefully, another text line will say, and all the land remained unconquered. And Joshua told the tribes, when are you going to get going and conquer your portion, and so on. So there are contradictory strands in the book of Joshua. Then Joshua dies in the book of Joshua. In the book of Judges, he's alive again. This might be the dead alive again Jesus. I don't know how that all works out. And he dies a second time in the book of Judges. It's all very complicated. I don't have time to do that in Old Testament class. I would, but I don't have time to do that here. So you're getting the Israelites either staying there or coming in a big glom. And with David, things separate out. Saul is a Benjaminite king. The prophets and everything are presented as being involved with Saul's appointment. They don't like Saul. They switched the appointment to David. That's all in the Samuel books. But in any event, that period is after Joshua, 1100 period is 1000 period. So we know there was a David-type king in 1050 BC or thereabouts. And David came from Hebron. He was king according to the Bible, whether he was Saul's servant and played the harp and all that stuff. I don't know. That's all Samuel stories, and you can read those. But we know that David first reigned in Hebron. Hebron is in the south. So, Hebron, this is Hebron. This is Bethlehem. This is Jerusalem. This is what's called Ramallah today, Bethel in those days, Temple of God. This is Shechem. This is Samaria. So basically, and Jericho's down here. So basically, Israelite life takes place along the ridge line. Highlands. About, I would say, I'm not very good, it was 2,000 feet above sea level. Somewhat in there. And this is a coastal plain, and then there's a coastal plain here. And Galilee is up here. So the chariots would run up the coast and this way. So the Israelites couldn't conquer the coastal plain. Okay? So with David and his conquest of Jerusalem, which is described in the Bible, North and South are united for a brief period. Solomon, it continues, he builds the temple, 950. And then it splits apart. So as I told you last time, David, 1050 or so. Joshua, 1200 or so. Moses, 1350 or so. Joseph, 1650 or so. And then back to Abraham, if there was an Abraham, as such that we can put our finger on, as clearly as the Bible tries to do. But now we're getting more historical. Solomon, Temple, 950. After Solomon, as I told you, we get the divided monarchy.